Many Chileans were leaving Chile because of political problems. We had a dictatorship that lasted nearly 17 years. So for the first time, I think, in the history of Chile, Chileans were trying to go abroad. And the doors were open here in Australia, so we were lucky that we came to this country.
We arrived in 1976 at Enterprise, my husband and 3 children. We were actually one of the first assisted migrants in my circle, and we came out having paid £20 each, so we were not £10 POMs, £20 POMs.
And that particular day, Dad picked us up from school and chucked us in the car and said, I got some magazines for you guys to have a look. And it was this Australian magazines, all in English, so we didn't understand anything. But he said, have a look at the photos. And there was kangaroos, koalas, and the top part of Australia, the big mountains and red sand. And he said, that's where we're going. But you can't tell any of your friends. You can't tell anybody about this. You know, we used to see our friends, and in the evening we used to go out and hang out and keep playing football outside, and it was hard to not say anything to them. And there was some of them who said, you know, night before coming here, they said, I'll see you tomorrow. I said, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah.
We escaped from Vietnam by boat. Yeah. And my journey for freedom, very, very dangerous, very risky. But, you know, for freedom, we have to go. And after 1 month at the sea, no food, no water at all, luckily, at last, a British cargo rescued us and took us to Darwin.
The day we came on the boat, my mother walked to the end of the pier and she wore a turquoise suit. And I went to the back of the ship, and I never left the ship's rail until I couldn't see her again. She was just a dog. And then, oh well, that's my life over there. Now I start afresh. And that's what we've done.
We still have that last fear that, you know, until you step into the aircraft, things could happen, things could go wrong. There's always the last minute change of mind, anything could go wrong. And we were praying until we got called in. We sit in the aircraft, buckle up our seatbelt, off to go. We feel, oh, we're free like a bird now. We can all sing all the way to Australia.
Well, we arrived in Melbourne. We weren't told about the weather. I think it was about August when we landed here. And I had a pair of shorts on and a singlet, you know, so we came out of at the airport. It looked strange because we saw all these people handing over these big, heavy blankets. We thought, oh, you know, why take the blanket? But as soon as we actually stepped outside the airport, we knew exactly why.
You know, the bus opened up, and there we stepped out onto this sort of waiting area, this open area that was the entrance to the hostel. And my one great memory was literally seeing my mother and father and my sister and I, and we had, like, you know, 3 or 4 suitcases, and that was it. Everything we had in the world was just sitting there on that footpath, and we were in the middle of God knows where, just like the furthest you could possibly get from anything we knew.
I was there when the Cambodian boat people arrived. It was the 8th boat, I think, and they came straight from. I don't think it was Port Hedland, it was one of those, Broome. They looked distraught, and they were dirty, and they were absolutely, well, you could smell they hadn't had a bath for ages. They were very distressed. And they were able to, you know, they were given soap and things, and they were able to have a shower and wash their hair, and they were so different when they came out. It was awful to see it, actually. I felt a terrific compassion for them. Like when I first began work with them, I cried for about 3 days because I'd never been face to face with anything so horrific as the stories I was being told. And I thought, well, you just have to toughen yourself up if you're going to do anything. And eventually got over this, just occasionally. You shed a tear or two. But, you know, human beings are marvellous. The resilience of those people.
The first thing I smelled was, oh, this is the smell of the freedom, and the freshness of the air, and the cleanliness, and people dress so well and they smell so beautiful, because we never experienced any soap. So here, you know, they just smell so beautiful.
Well, they came in buses, and I was over there at the buses that were coming off. Took the passports and took them in the passports into the office, and then we allocated their flats to them, how many children they had, and the flats were allocated accordingly. And then we took them out, gave them back their passports, and handed them over to what we called the main usefuls. We handed them over to a useful, and he put all their luggage in a trolley and took them up to the corresponding flat.
We were told the rule and regulation, you know, of the centre, and also our experience was the room was nicely set up. You know, this is our first night here. You know, no more mosquito bite, and no more of this. And look at the toilet, you know, so clean you could actually sleep in the toilet. We said that they don't stink. We stick our nose around, they don't smell like our toilet in the camp, and all that. And the shower, how do you turn on the shower? You know, it was all this, you know, a lot of things to learn.
Water release. After, you know, a lot of trauma days in the sea, and I just kneel down and say, thank you, God, at last we can make it. We have a freedom now.
And I remember standing there feeling, looking at the trees, and just, I was already asking myself that question, what's going to happen to me here? As time went on, I started realizing how much you mature living in countries, torn wall countries, how much you lose that sense of playing and growing up as a child. I was already asking at 13, well, what's going to happen?
I think it's been a wonderful experience for everyone that lived through the hostel, because you know, today there's counselling, you know, after traumatic experiences and all that sort of thing. When we arrived, there wasn't any of that, and I think that if it wasn't for those children that you grew up with, I think that our lives would have been a lot different. I think that we would have found it harder to adapt to a new life, and so I think that the fact that there were so many children there was a wonderful thing.